Dehenna, how are you feeling about the prospects of the Conservatives at the next general election?
I think it's funny because for months, if not the past year, I think people have completely written off the chance of a Conservative victory, which I've always said is nonsense. I mean, a week is a long time in politics, so a year is a lifetime. And we're seeing now, a real focus on that next election, on the kind of policies that are probably going to be in that manifesto. I'm thinking about the net zero policies and being a bit more sensible when it comes to cost of living on some of the lowest earners there. Thinking about the motorist announcement, which I think we're going to get a bit more detail on this week during Rishi's conference speech. Now's the time to focus, and I think one thing we actually need to do is come together. I've said it for a long time, divided parties don't win elections. We want to win, we need to win. I still firmly believe that Conservative policies are the best policies for the country, for my constituency. So I reckon we can do it, and already we can see the polls narrowing. And as I say, a year's a long time in politics.
Still quite a wide gap between Labour and the Conservatives, even though the polls are narrowing. Would you describe the party as divided at the moment?
I think everyone wants to win. Everyone in our party wants to win. And, the Conservative Party has always been a really broad church with people more towards a kind of One Nation wing, people more towards a kind of common sense group wing, and a lot of shared ground. I think we tend to focus on the differences and not so much on the similarities. Everyone wants to win and everyone's bringing their ideas to the table, which I think is a really good thing. Effectively, we need to get behind Rishi. We need to make sure we're all feeding into what's going to be in that manifesto. And as soon as it's out, get behind it, push forward so that we can win as one team, because that's what the country needs right now.
Why should someone vote for Rishi Sunak?
He's great. Rishi is great. He is a man who gets things done. I mean, he came in at a really difficult time. Already we're seeing inflation get under control. His experience economically is second to none. And I think looking at what he did as Chancellor throughout the COVID pandemic, millions of people got through that pandemic financially because of the support he put in place. We can't forget that. We do have short memories sometimes. We move on to the next crisis, as it were. He put in place a lot of support and he led that. And when it comes to the levelling up agenda, obviously something that I'm very, very close to my heart, Rishi was the one who created the Levelling Up Fund, which has put, I think, almost £4 billion now into the hands of local communities to work on local projects. He's as committed to that agenda as anyone. It's a rough time. We need someone sensible who's going to turn the ship around, and I think he's the man.
Can you say that Rishi Sunak is committed to levelling up if they're not extending HS2 to here in Manchester? Surely it's quite a damning metaphor for the Conservatives' attitude to levelling up.
I think we can. I mean, I've said before, I didn't support HS2 the first time around, as it were, because I thought the money could be better spent on northern projects, effectively. Once we said we were going to do it, we need to do it. We need to deliver it, especially as, people have already had their houses bought up and had to move as a result of it. No decisions yet formally been made, I don't think. Certainly I'm pushing for this thing to be done. It was Zoe at IPPR North yesterday who said commit and stick, and I think it was the best phrase when it comes to big major infrastructure projects. When we say we're going to do them, we need to do them, get it done. And certainly I hope there is an emphasis on the northern portion, because we know that northern transport needs a lot of work. It's why as part of our devolution deals we're giving away more transport powers to local mayors, like here in Manchester with Andy Burnham and the B network, which I think has proven a very early success. Transport's so crucial to people's everyday lives. We need to get it right. But HS2 is not the only answer, but certainly I reckon we should crack on and do it.
Is it a relief that you won't have to toe the party line so much by the next election?
A relief, a little bit. I mean, collective responsibility as a minister can be difficult because there are always going to be certain things coming out of certain departments that you might not fully be on board with. But that's what you buy into. When you get into government, you recognise that you are all one team. But people who know me know I'm never one to necessarily be quiet anyway. So I'm sure that'll continue right up to the election.
You're quite vocal and public about your identity as a bisexual woman.
Yes.
How do you feel about the semantics or the attitude of some of your fellow MPs towards LGBT people, particularly trans people?
It's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. There's no other way to put it. I'd say that to their faces if we were discussing it in person. The entire LGBT community has faced a really difficult history and so much adversity over the years. In some ways, I feel really lucky that I had a really positive reception to coming out, when if you went back 20 years, others wouldn't have. They'd have had a vitriolic reception in Parliament, but across the country as well. We've still got a long way to go. And I think with the trans community, been quite devastated to see the recent polling come out that shows that the public's kind of attitude towards the trans community is going backwards. I think one of the problems there is that these debates around single-sex spaces, about trans participation in sport, get so inflamed by both sides, I have to say. People on each side are really passionate, but then you miss all of the people in the middle who want to take a really sensible approach. And I think that's most people. Most people don't really care how other people live, want people to be free to live and love however they like, as long as it's not like negatively impacting them and their lives. I think that's the attitude of most people in this country. We are such a brilliantly tolerant country. But on the trans debate, we just need to be sensible. We need to take the heat out of that debate in Parliament and across society. And, you know, certain comments that I know are the ones you're referring to absolutely do not help.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Man conversion therapy, do it now. Get it done. We said we'd do it, we need to do it. And I sincerely hope that we'll see sense and get that done before the election.